Hi, it's Colli from Colli Talks Transformative Conversations, and I'm so excited to be here with you because, as I always start, I go, we're going to go deep, and we are. Something that has come up for me is a quote by Peter Levine, who I have studied with. He says that pain carries essential information. It is a messenger of the soul. And I have also another teacher that has talked about pain, and he says that pain is the teacher that never lies. Well, I agree with both of them. And I'm sure on this wonderful deep dive we're going to do tonight, I think you're actually going to I think you will come to more appreciation of the pain that you might be carrying in your body, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, financially. You see, not all tension is muscular. Some tension is memories that are trying to surface, and they do in the form of symptoms. So you feel them, but you don't understand them. It's a silent restlessness that doesn't translate into pain, but it throws everything out of balance inside. Kind of like you feel kind of like you're out of whack. So, like shifted fields that keep vibrating out of rhythm. Something pulses quietly, escaping logic, but not the body. No, the body keeps score. The body remembers. It's as if your body holds these memories you've never lived. And in fact, it does. There is a tissue that records every trauma, every suppressed shock, every unspoken word that once needed to remain silent. It's everywhere. It's in the skin, perhaps a skin condition. It can be in other areas of the body that, you aren't even paying attention to, right? So, not just in the skin, the muscles. You have aches that kind of never go away, the bones, especially with arthritis, and the organs. But the thing is, it's not any of them. It's the invisible field that surrounds, connects, and guides them all. And more than that, it's where pain hides when it has no voice. Science has named it fascia, but many already knew it by another name, a name the body understands better. The tissue of the soul when it begins to release. It's not just the body that's letting go. It's as if forgotten parts of who you are begin to breathe again. Have you ever noticed? And I'm thinking about this myself because, it's so true for me as well. But have you ever noticed that the body feels things that the mind doesn't remember? Think about that for a moment. Have you ever noticed that the body feels things that the mind doesn't remember? It's almost as if there was like an invisible silent messenger carrying stories that were never told. Well, it's not in the muscles, nor in the nerves. It's in what holds everything together and at the same time listens to it all. The field doesn't speak in words. It responds through symptoms, sudden stiffness, waves of tension in unlikely places that maybe you're not really paying attention to. Like I say, it's a hidden message. It can be in spasms. I just went through that. I was going through unbelievable amount of spasms in my tummy. And it started after my auntie passed away. But it also it was what really exasperated it was I carried water. I was carrying jugs of water to the point of 10 bottles of water that are 45 pounds each. And I pressed in against my sternum. But you see, that needed to happen. I needed to do that in order to get to why the spasms were even starting after my auntie had passed. And it was this knock, knock. Are you ready to pay attention or are you going to just let it go by? And I kept working through it, working through it, and working through it. And you know what? All of a sudden, huge waves of grief, huge amount of tears. It was almost like for a week that it happened. And it was beautiful because it totally released the tightness and the hardness in that area. And the interesting thing is, it also brought me back to, you know what? Maybe my body's really missing something. And it was missing magnesium to calm everything down. Yes, to calm everything down. You see, modern medicine is still taking its first steps to understand all of this, right? But in certain ancient temples, it was already known as an organ of somatic memory, not just a collagen network, but a vibrational archive. You know, there not only your experiences were encoded, but the traces of everything that became before inherited fears, silenced pain, shocks from your lineage that still resonate in you. You see, when my aunt passed away, it was like losing my mom all over again because my mom passed away at such an early age and early age for me. So my auntie really became my surrogate. And, it wasn't until really 10 years ago that we spoke almost every day. And there's still times I reach to call her and then I go, no. And then the tears flow again. But that's a good thing because it's releasing out of my body. So you see, they're not only, your experiences were, encoded, but the traces of everything that became before inherited fears, silenced pain, shocks from lineage that still resonate in you, like they did in me, all wrapped in a network that pulses even while you sleep. Yes, even while you're sleeping. This is something that a lot of people don't understand that this is happening while they sleep. And maybe that's why they don't sleep, right? So they used to call this tissue something few dare to name today. It's a veil between the visible and the invisible, the secret bridge between the flesh and spirit, a structure where time is not linear. It bends, it settles, and repeats. That's why when you activate this field with precision, you're not just stretching or releasing muscles, you're accessing your body's vibrational library and releasing memories that actually were never yours, but they chose to live in you. And this is not about faith nor empty mysticism. It is somatic practice. It is a bioalchemy. There are techniques, simple yet profound, that unlock this field. They call the body to expel what was held back by fear, by loyalty, by survival. And that's exactly what I've been working through. And that's why the spasms in the tummy. And that's why it's so beautiful to know this and to release this through these different ways that I have been, well, privileged to come across to do. So in that moment, something shifts, and it did, and it is for me, and it will, and it can for you. Pain stops being your identity and becomes just a passage. What once held you back begins to flow. What once felt like yours dissolves, and you begin actually to begin to move from a cleaner place, a more truthful place, a place that truly is yours. In Hermetic tradition, the body was not just flesh. It was a temple, a map, a codex. Each layer of autonomy silently revealed a hidden principle, a link between matter in motion and the soul's invisible records. And among all those tissues, there was one that initiates would never touch without reverence, because there, according to the ancients, lived what they call the record of incarnation. So you see, that's what's been happening for me. And it's like an incredible journey because you see, this whole thing, it's not about an organ or a gland. When I study kinesiology, specialized kinesiology, oh my gosh, my wonderful instructor, Steve Harris, I love him dearly. He was the creator of this specialized kinesiology. And so there's the higher glands in the brain, and there is, of course, the glands in the brain. And then there's the meridians in the body, and then there's the muscles. And in behind each muscle is a meridian and also a gland, and then a higher gland in the brain. So it's not just an organ or a gland, but a living web that is very sensitive to the spirit. So they knew way back when, whatever was not released, there would continue to repeat itself. I mean, Hermes actually left clues. He wrote that the body carries in its structure reflections of the universal laws, and by learning to read those signs, to initiate, could transmute not only their pain, but also their story. And we all have a story. Yes, we do. This inner network, fine as a veil, strong as steel, was seen as the field that encoded experience. There were inscribed not only physical shocks, but also emotional bonds. And in family constellations, we know that these are unresolved losses and silent pacts. And these can be the hidden loyalties. So much so that the enmeshments and the entanglements are forever unless one can get out of the prison that they are in. So in Egypt, this was called the living weave. And it was said that priests who knew how to activate it could heal not only bodies, but also entire bloodlines. It wasn't massage, it was ritual. And each touch, each vibration, that was a command, a gesture of vibrational reprogramming. Well, this totally taught that time is not a line. It is spiral. And the body is the point where all these spirals converge. So you see, there within the invisible interlacing of this weave, the past pulses alongside the present, shaping what you feel, even without realizing it. Illness, in this view, is a misalignment between planes, and healing begins when you recognize the tissue where those planes intersect. Now, this tissue, ignored for centuries, is now being rediscovered by science under the name of fascia. And it's interesting about this because you see, if the body and the mind and the soul are not in alignment, there's going to be, of course, this misalignment. These are levels, that in this environment, with these skills and these capabilities and these beliefs and these values, this is my identity. But then there is this thing called the transmission link. And unless people make and step aside from that identity through the transmission link of who else is involved here, what else is involved here, all that, right? And that includes the tissue. Because the tissue, ignored for centuries now, is being rediscovered, like I said, under the name of fascia. But way long before that, it was honored as the bearer of something modern language does not know how to even name. The body knew the initiate could feel it, and you are about to remember. Right. For a long time, tissues like bones, muscles, and organs were seen as Well, just the main carriers of the sensation and bodily function. But in recent years, a new perspective has transformed our understanding of anatomy. Fascia, being that it was so overlooked for so long, is now coming into a place where it is being honored. Actually, in medical books, now it has begun to be recognized as sensory, emotional, and energetic system in its own right. In 207, actually, the first international fascia research was kind of taken place. And so this is like amazing because there was a whole international fascial research congress that held at Harvard Medical School, and this was a huge turning point. There were scientists and therapists where proved the fascia is not just a structural wrapping, it's an intelligent, interconnected network that transmits signals faster than nerves themselves. And like, wow. I mean, if you think about it, if you think about the World Wide Web, as some people call it, or the internet, and just how much goes on, how many messages get sent in a blink of your eye, not even a blink of your eye, but faster than that. So these nerves, it responds to touch, trauma, emotion. It shapes posture, records experience, and reacts even to subtle thoughts. So studies are using functional magnetic resonance imaging that have shown the working with this tissue directly activates brain areas linked to emotional pain, memory, and identity processing. And remember, I mentioned the logical levels, the transcendence past the level of identity, because our identity shifts in each environment that we're in. It's not that you're schizophrenic. It's just that, if you're in the role of a mother and you're also a CEO, your identity is shifting in those different environments, right? So in 2018, researchers led by Helen Langevin, director of the National Institute of Health in the United States, confirmed that fascia movement is deeply connected to the autonomic nervous system. In other words, when you interact with this tissue, you are literally communicating with your most unconscious biology. That's right. That's why certain tensions don't necessarily dissolve with stretching, massage, yoga, Pilates, exercise at the gym, because they are not just physical. They are messages encoded in the body's deepest layers. Yes, yoga absolutely brings a lot of this out. I know that as a certified yoga instructor, and I know that having studied with the best, Sandra Sammartino. So I know that this definitely releases, whoa, so much. So it's all waiting for a release that is not muscular. It's actually vibrational. And today, science is measuring what the body has always expressed in silence. It's not about discovering something new. No, it's about learning to listen to what has always been speaking from within. You see, you don't need more control nor more technique. No. What the tissue of the soul asks for is surrender. Hmm. And I know some of you are going, surrender? Well, surrender to the wisdom pulsing beneath your skin, to the silent code that only reveals itself when you listen without trying to understand. This process, and it is that, it can't be taught. It must be accessed. But there are paths, inner rituals that reactivate this kind of listening, not as a formula, but as a field of neuroquantum release that the body recognizes before the mind does. Let me just give you a little hint here. Let's just say you want to try this out, okay? So start like this. Step one, quiet the mind. Oh, easy for me to say, right, Collie? But quiet the mind. There really can be no release where there is noise. And the loudest noise is that of a restless mind. So the first step is to lower the volume. Next, lie down with your feet flat on the floor and your knees bent. Yep. Close your eyes and do nothing. Just observe. The more you try to relax, the more the body tries, and it will resist. Let the body decide where to begin. Step 2, tune in to inner listening. In the still, complete stillness, tune into that inner listening. And in this stillness, something awakens. It will. Subtle sensations begin to speak. A tingling in the finger, a warmth in the hips, a shift in your throat. These are portals of release starting to open. No, they aren't random psychological, physiological reactions. They are vibrational records about to dissolve. And so stay there. Witness it. Now, step 3, allow the micro release. If the body trembles, yawns, or shivers, don't stop it. These moments, these movements are not glitches. They are corrections. They are ancestral codes coming out of latency. When the fascia lets go, what was hidden begins to move, and you are no longer in control. It's conscious awakening from within. You are no longer in the body of your routine. You've entered another field where time slows down and perception expands. And in this state, scanning can begin, but not as someone searching for pain, rather as someone that is tuning in to a frequency that has always been there. Now, step 4, scan without searching. Don't look for anything. Don't look for trauma. Let it show itself. Move your attention through the body from the base of the neck to your tailbone and back again. No, not to diagnose, but to notice where there is a dense silence. Yes, these silences are not empty. They are compressed memories. So just be there without judging, without interpreting. You are not analyzing, you are witnessing. And step 5, this is a vibrational release through subtle touch. Touch is not pressure, it's presence. So place your hands on the areas where you feel a pulse, warmth, or emptiness. These zones are portals. You may feel chills, shivers, deep breaths, or even tears, as I did, as I mentioned, with regards to the spasms I was having in my tummy. All are valid. They show that the fascia is realigning, and with it, stagnant emotions begin to move. Now, step 6, conscious energetic integration. After the release, don't get up right away. The body needs time to reintegrate the new field. So stay lying down, welcoming whatever rises, maybe images, memories, intuitions, and just breathe. It is the body telling you stories that have been hidden. The listening is more valuable than any explanation. It is in the silence that the tissue of the soul reveals what the mind could never reach. It's not enough to release. You have to anchor the new frequency, or the old patterns will return to fill the space. So fascia, well, it's very flexible, but it's also very loyal. to what you believe is real. Remember those hidden loyalties? It stays in the tissue. The issues are in the tissue. So that's why the next step is not physical. It's a vibrational command. So step 7 is a narrow quantum seal. I want you to choose a short phase, but one that vibrates with truth, something that represents the new frequency. Yeah, the new frequency that you want to stabilize, right? Do not repeat it just like another mantra. No, this is not an affirmation. I want you to repeat it as if sealing a code into the fabric of reality. Fascia responds to intention charged with presence. That's right. Intention charged with presence. So say it slowly 3 times with your whole body listening. Now, step 8, daily micro consecration every day. As you wake up, place your hand over the center of your chest. Take a deep breath and activate and seal phrases in silence. Not to remember it, but to reconfirm the field. You see, when I was doing specialized kinesiology and I would balance the person, it's very important to align the heart and the solar plexus, because that is, of course, the area where, our cord was cut between our mother and us, right? So it's very important to reconfirm this in the field. So this simple repetition strengthens the bridge between intention and the body. And little by little, it helps your nervous system recognize the new version, the new system, as the only one that exists. Now, step 9, it's a ritual close. So before ending the practice, gently touch your tailbone with your fingertips. Yes, place 2 of your fingers and just touch the tailbone, because the tailbone area is where we hold, it's our root, it's our stability. I so want you now to thank the fascia for revealing what once was hidden. The gesture of gratitude is not symbolic, it is biological. It activates the brain's reward cycle and stabilized the released field. So it will stabilize this field more and more. It is in this moment that the tissue of the soul reconfigures and you return more whole than when you began. You see, a lot of people never understood. They don't understand the sadness nor physical pain that they're experiencing, right? So there was something deeper, perhaps, a chronic tension, perhaps, that seemed to live just beneath what you're feeling, beneath your skin. So sometimes actually in a person's neck and other times in hips. And one of the hardest days is when it feels like the body weighs twice as much, right? And people try various things. And I'm not saying not to. Do what you need to do in order to move through this. But this will give you results where the body will say everything is fine. More fine than it was before. Because the body could be screaming out in a way that you don't even know, to be heard, to have this type of work done. So now I want you to give yourself credit, because once you do this, you may notice that there is a warmth in your stomach, maybe a tear without a story, a tremor that might start in your legs, maybe it climbs up to your back. Maybe your body starts to move on its own, and maybe it's not dancing. And no, it's not a breakdown. It could be something trying to come out. So as you move through this, right, in the end, there won't be an explanation, but there will be relief, lightness, silence, and certainty that no theory had ever given you before. The body has been holding stories that weren't yours. So all these old pains can vanish. You might find your sleep returns, maybe a distant memory, perhaps your grandmother's face, your grandfather's face. Who knows what it will be? But the thing is, the body will reveal to you what it is that you need to know now, all of which the fascia was holding, what the soul couldn't release. So, the body tries in its own ways over and over to set this free. And many people make it this to this point, but then they freeze. I don't want you to freeze. They freeze because they lack technique or doubt the theory, but because deep down they're afraid of what might surface. So it's not that they don't have tried or aren't going to continue trying, but it's being fearful, afraid of letting go of what they've grown used to in calling this is me, right? And that isn't. It's someone else. And so this has all been trying to come through you as you. And that's the real obstacle, right? Because letting go of those structures can feel for a moment like you're losing your identity. But that's an obstacle. It's not physical, it's not external. It's a kind of invisible attachment to pain that has become a shelter. But here is the secret that ancients understood. The body will not release what you're still trying to control with your mind. Nope, it won't. The key is to step out of being hypervigilant, the vigilance, to drop the effort. Yeah, to drop the effort. And I want you to think about that for a minute. To drop the effort. To understand and allow the release to happen in its own ways, without form, without a script, without expectation. And when you access the tissue of your soul, you're not just touching your anatomy, you're activating a field of vibrational frequency, intelligence that knows way more than you could ever imagine. But it knows exactly what to do if, and this is it, if you allow it. Transmutation doesn't require force. It requires presence and the courage to move through the initial discomfort without shutting down again. The body is far too wise to sabotage itself. Oh, yes, it is. But it needs all of you, not just your thoughts, and it needs to have your subconscious on board. There are records that don't live in the mind, but in the gestures, intention, and in the body's silences. So you might call them traumas or inheritances, but maybe the truest word is forgotten codings. And the tissue of the soul doesn't just hold your pain. It carries patterns from those who became before you. Secrets that never found their way into words, but took refuge in your vertebrae, your tendons, your breath. And that's why certain sensations seem to have no origin. Because in truth, they didn't begin with you. No, they didn't. But they settled into your system as if they were yours. So now undoing this illusion is the liberation of an entire cycle. Yeah, it's not about healing everything or changing or chasing an ideal state. It's about interrupting the unconscious flow of repetition. It's about rewiring, not with pretty phrases, but with presence, with trembling, with release. And sometimes that takes courage, bloody hard courage. Other times it only takes surrender, but it always takes truth. Troth once said, that which sleeps in the tissues one day awakens as destiny. He wasn't speaking poetry. He was speaking of vibrational reality. And that's what this is all about. This podcast. It's an invitation to touch what once felt untouchable, to listen to yourself in the exact place where silence always has lived, and to allow maybe for the first time, maybe for the first time, that your body must just be carried, but fully inhabited. This is not an ending, it's a crack. It's a subtle space between what you've endured and what can finally be released. Because when the tissue of the soul begins to breathe, it's just not pain that dissolved or dissolves, it's your essence returning to the place it was never meant to leave. Maybe you not return to yourself, but return to being. And so, if this content has stirred something within you, I ask that you share it with others who may be in pain on any of the levels. It will strengthen the field and help more souls awake. And that is my soul's work. So please share it with somebody that might be in pain, that might be suffering, that is waiting for their soul to speak in ways that they've not listened before. So for now, and until next week, I'm going to say, have a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful evening, weekend, and lots of deep soul love and hugs. Because really, when you think about it, that's what it's all about. Bye for now.